Now, if a husband decides to utilize those tools which are available to him, I can be with one wife, and if she gets on my nerves or she says something I don't like, and by getting on my nerves, she sticks up for herself, or if she says that James, you wasting money or you blowing the money that I'm bringing into the family and you're giving it to somebody else, and I don't think that's fair. Oh, you getting on my nerves. So what we need to do is James need to stop visiting your ass, and I'm gonna go over to the other wife who's all about helping me do these things because she's helping me to spend the damn money. And there's nothing that in it the wives can do about it because it's built into the system. Are you alive or just breathing? Now, I will say this, because they started talking about polygamy, and David said some strong things about polygamy, which are very much in line with a lot of the things that I was saying in my previous videos, even from the time I started all the way through, try to be consistent. The one thing that I agree with and disagree with Janelle, you can't paint everybody with a big broad brush and criticize everybody. That, I think, is fair. That's a fair criticism. You can't say that all polygamists are bad and sexist and misogynist. However, there was a time when, like, the big orcas, the killer whales, they were knocking off their trainers, right? They were revolting against them, smashing them, doing all kinds of, driving them into the bottom of the pool and doing all kinds of crazy stuff, right? Now, are all orcas dangerous? No, but you have a better chance of getting smoked out, slumped up by an orca if you swim with orcas than if you don't. Okay, like, I mean, sitting there trying to pretend like sitting there pretending like, oh, okay, yeah, not all polygamists are bad, yeah, but I mean, at the same time, you have the tools. The tools are there, and I think that that's part of the problem. If you want to have the bigger discussion, I'm down to have the bigger discussion. How can we do it? How can we make it more fair or safer? But I don't think it's just a matter of, they came in with the whole fanciful idea that if we just tell people that polygamy is out there, it becomes more acceptable, and that by them people knowing about it, and even if they accept it, somehow it becomes safer. I disagree, because at the end of the day, I think you have to remove the teeth from the hound if you don't want it to bite you. The problem that you have is that everything David said is built into the system. Now, if a husband decides to utilize those tools which are available to him, so if you have, like, I can be with one wife, and if she gets on my nerves or she says something I don't like, and by getting on my nerves, she sticks up for herself or she stands up for her children, the best interest of her kids, or if she says that, James, you wasting money or you blowing the money that I'm bringing into the family and you're giving it to somebody else, and I don't think that's fair. My kids are sitting here and they're not eating properly because you're going out on dates trying to find new wives, and you're spending a lot of time and things away from the family. You're taking financial resources away from the family. You're doing all these things. Oh, you getting on my nerves. So what we need to do is James need to stop visiting your ass, and I'm gonna go over to the other wife who's all about helping me do these things because she's helping me to spend the damn money. And there's nothing that in it the wives can do about it because it's built into the system. So we can talk about everybody knowing about it. But just like everything else, when you hear about people knowing about it, if you could know that something's going on in a family, even a monogamous relationship, you could know something's going on in the household that's not quite right. She's putting on a lot of foundational makeup. She's wearing long sleeve shirts in the summertime. You know there's something going on in the house. There's only so far you can push without that person coming forward and saying, this is what's happening in the house. One, two. What if historically, what have these people said who are in these relationships? It's none of your business. So even though we have all kinds of awareness material out there, in my town, my county, we set up places and things like that where people can go. Like, I think my town, the town over, and like 3, 4 other towns within my area, not even towns. I'm talking about counties. They set up places where we have shelters and things like that for people who are in tough spots. Even with all that information, it doesn't stop the mistreatment. So we have to get away from the idea that just because people are aware of it, that somehow it's going to cure the problem. I think it helps. I think Janelle is on a point that if we become more accepting of the fact that this occurs and people who are involved don't necessarily feel afraid to come forward and say that they're in this type of relationship and they don't feel like that's going to be the first strike against them in their complaint, then yeah, I think that does help. But at the same time, I'm very skeptical on how much it will go, how far it will go to stop the abuses that occur in that system. Because I'm going to be frank, and I'm just saying this as an outside observer, as an outside auditor. It's built into the system. It's built into the system. So we can sit there and try to dress it up and dress it down as much as we want. But even by Cody's standards, you listen to folks who've been in it, who have their YouTube pages, they'll talk about it. If you listen to them talk about it, they'll tell you Cody was a progressive participant. He not only is Cody not a bad person as far as he's concerned, he's actually forward thinking. He's a kind husband because he did give some freedoms to his wives. And even that statement in and of itself, he gave some freedoms to his wives. That's crazy. So, I mean, we have to acknowledge that as well. And again, this kind of goes back to the conversation with Christine. Like, I like fantasy stuff too. I grew up, Star Wars, Star Trek, the anything out of space. I love superhero stuff. I love the comic books. I had comic books and stuff when I was a kid, toys and shit, But I recognize it. Just because you tie a towel around your neck don't mean you could jump off your garage and fly away. You understand what I mean? I like fantasy too. But sometimes we got to tap it with a little bit of reality. The discussion they had with David, I think that we really do have to be very mindful of the power and control which exists in polygamy. Now, Janelle did say something which I'm going to confess is beginning to be one of my pet peeves when we watch these types of alternative lifestyle shows. Somehow, some way, when you talk about the ills that occur in polygamy, which is built into the system, by the way, as I've expressed, they always come back and say, yeah, but there are bad people in monogamy too. Okay. That doesn't, the whataboutism doesn't take away from the point. It doesn't take away from the point. Pigs may like it. And so do the cows. Pigs don't eat it, but the cows know how. Like, it doesn't make a difference like that. Okay. It doesn't make a difference. If the wrong thing is happening in a monogamous relationship by the nature of the system that we are a part of. We talk about prenuptial agreements. If you get married and you don't have a formalized prenuptial agreement, there is a prenuptial agreement in place. It's called, when you go to court and you file your petition for divorce, there is a certain prescribed result which will come down from that decision. When you put in that application, the state already has prescription on where you are, whether you live in a community property state, where you live in a fault state, where you live in a no fault state, et cetera, et cetera. There are there's guidelines in place. You have protections that you simply do not have in polygamy. And I say that because when I say protections, I'm not just talking about, according to our faith and according to our culture. I'm talking about legal protections. You have legal protections if you are married in the United States that you do not have if you're the second, third, fourth, fifth, 10th wife of a polygamist. You don't have those protections. In some states, you have common law protections. You don't even have to be married as long as you present yourself as a couple. As long as you are you hold out that this person is your partner, and you can establish that you guys have lived in a form and fashion of being a married couple, then you have you inherit certain protections under some common law states in some places. You don't have that in polygamy. I don't give a shit how long you've been married. Mary was with Cody for 30 years. When she filed her legal divorce way back in 2000, I want to say it was like 12 or something like that. When she filed for her legal divorce, that was the termination of any rights or responsibilities Cody had towards her. Any rights she had, she abdicated because she gave away because she wanted to give them to Robin so he could adopt the kids. That bullshit storyline. So that's that. But again, the system is not built that way. Now the question is, like even Janelle said it, if they made it so that women in polygamous marriage somehow could get reap some of the assets once they depart from the polygamous marriage, they break up, they decide they want to take some of the husband's assets, they could do it. Then yeah, damn Skippy. The volunteerism or the participation of people going into polygamy would plummet. It would plummet. And you and Janelle, this is something Janelle has even acknowledged. And my question is simply this. If Janelle, I'm offering, if you ever want to come on the show and talk about it, we can do this. Or anybody who wants to talk about polygamy, come on the show. We'll talk about it. But if you can acknowledge that the numbers of polygamy would plummet if women were given rights within those institutions, I ask this simple question. Why do you think they would be plummeting? They would plummet because the men who are involved in these situations understand that they have an inherent benefit within the institution that they are participating in. So, because if you take away that benefit, then they have zero incentive to want to participate in that institution. That's why the numbers would plummet, because even they recognize, and tacitly, Janelle is recognizing that there is an inherent privilege that these gentlemen who involve themselves in polygamy have. That's my take. I'm James. This has been my take on reality, and I'm out. You and me could be watching cats knock glasses down, or a dude trying to stunt stressed as a clown. DIY hacks turn smiles to frowns, but you're vibing